Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And in this video, I am going to do some movie reviews of some kind of mini movie reviews of a lot of movies that I've watched over this last year that I haven't really talked about on the channel. So I kind of want to catch myself up with all the movies I've watched. So I'm calling this the Movie Review Gauntlet Part 1. So stay tuned and listen to some of my movie reviews here on Jason the Old Millennial. Hey guys, how are you all doing? Thanks for viewing my channel and listening to what I have to say and my opinion. In this video, like I said, I have all these movies that I've seen that I haven't really talked about on the channel because I have so many things I have a lot of ranking videos that take up a lot of my time to shoot, and I try to do 2-3 videos a week. Has been kind of my thing. And there's all these movies I want to talk about, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And mostly these are movies that I've seen this last year that I put on my Letterboxd app. If you don't know, there's this app called Letterboxd. Really great app for especially if you like movies and reviewing movies and making movie lists and also following other people and what they have to say. It's a really great app. I recommend a lot. But yeah, on my Letterboxd app, after I see a movie, I like to go on there and write a review and give it a star rating. And there's some movies, I have some lists going on that I'm putting lists together. And anyway, so say if anybody has a Letterboxd app or on that, I would love to follow you. I'd love for people to follow me. But that's a really good app to use because it takes you can see what you've watched in that year. So I can go on it and see what movies I watched in the month of January, February, and all that. So that's why I kind of use that app to look at, okay, what movies have I watched? Anyway, so I went through that and kind of wrote down all the movies that I've seen for the first time this year. And not necessarily new movies this year, but just movies I just happened to watch for the first time. So I wanted to go through what I've watched this last year. So this is going to take several videos probably, or I'd say several, at least 3 or so videos probably to get through, and I'll see how good I can do because I want to try to do them fairly quick so I can get through a bunch of them in one video. But I'm not really great at doing quick reviews because I get really involved when I do a review and there's so much I want to talk about in a movie. So I'll try my best to limit what I have to say, but we'll see. Anyway, so, and before I get to the list, I wanted to remind everybody that I'm doing a live stream this Friday, July 22nd, with a good friend of mine, Adam from What the Gym. And yeah, we're going to do this live stream together on my channel at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time here in the United States. I believe it's 7 p.m. over in England, where Adam is. And we're going to rank our top 10 favorite superhero movies. So we're going to go back and forth and rank our favorite movies and talk about them. And of course, listen to what the people that are watching the video, what they have to say, and hopefully interact with them. Hopefully have a really fun time. My first time doing a live stream like this with collaborating with somebody. So yeah, so please tune into that. I think that should be a lot of fun. Anyway, so I get to what I'm calling the Movie Review Gauntlet Part 1. So the first movie I'm going to talk about is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which I caught on Disney Plus when it came out, a month or so ago. I got around to that. I wasn't too crazy about watching Doctor Strange. The first Doctor Strange movie I thought was a little weak. It was a little boring. The whole origin, it's an origin story of how he got to be Doctor Strange. And I think it was one of the weakest origin stories I've seen out of the MCU. And it's not a terrible movie, but not great. I probably give it 2.5 stars, which is a light not recommend. Like, it's not quite good enough to be recommend. It's a movie that I wouldn't recommend watching unless you're a big Marvel fan, like I am, then you probably watch it anyways. But I would say it's towards the bottom of the Marvel movies, the first movie. So I think the Doctor Strange, the sequel here that came out, was definitely a big improvement on the first one. And I liked it quite a bit more, I would say, though I didn't love it necessarily, but I definitely like what they're doing with the movie. And I think it helps a lot that it's not an origin story, that he's already Doctor Strange. He already has all these incredible powers. And so he can start off right away doing these incredible things with his powers and do fight scenes. And that helped a lot move the plot pretty quickly and be more interesting. I still understand how he became such a great wizard, though. That's maybe one of my biggest problems of the first movie. Coming into this one, it's like he's just a regular guy. He's a medical doctor, a really good medical doctor, surgeon, and he just reads some books, and all of a sudden he's like the greatest wizard of all time. Like, I don't quite get how that works. It seems a little too convenient. But in saying that, I do love his powers, and he's very one of the maybe strongest superheroes actually with his powers. And a lot of CGI, of course, in this movie. I love what they do with the CGI. I think the very first fight scene he has in New York, and there's this like one-eyed monster, him and Wong are fighting, and it's a really well done fight scene, and what they do with him and how the magic works and the portals and how they use that, I think is really great. I think that's probably the best scene of the movie. In fact, I think it's that first towards the beginning of the movie, and I think the first half of the movie I like more than the second half, because I think it does a pretty good job of settling you get the main characters, you get what the plot is, you get what the conflict is pretty quickly and what's going to happen. And that all I thought was pretty interesting. I think once we get to who the bad guy is, and all of a sudden we're fighting this very overpowered, I guess I'm not mentioning who it is. Maybe most of you hopefully know who the bad guy is. But the bad guy is like this very overpowered, almost impossible to beat bad guy. And once we get into that story, I didn't like it as much. And then they start traveling to the multiverse, and some of that's interesting, some of that I didn't find that interesting. And so second half of the movie I wasn't crazy about, and I didn't think the ending was really that satisfying. And there's something about magic in this one that it really got dark. I think it's one of the darker MCU movies, thematically, I guess. They deal with dark magic and zombies and demons, and kind of there's a lot of these symbols that kind of are satanic looking symbols. So I don't really enjoy the darkness of the movie. I know the director is kind of a horror film director who directed, I know he directed like the first 3 Spider-Man movies, but he's also directed some, I think, zombie horror and other stuff. And so you definitely can tell there's some horror aspects to the movie, which I'm not a fan of horror, so I didn't really like a lot of that stuff in it. But I still would give it like a 3 out of 5 stars, like a light recommend. Definitely not a bad movie, I think, to check out on a Friday night on Disney Plus, just to wind down and have a little fun with it, and watch some action and all that. It's not a movie I'll probably rewatch anytime soon anyway. So that's Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, and that's probably one of my longer reviews I'm gonna do here. Let's see, the second movie I'm gonna talk about is a Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie that came out on Disney Plus. Which I didn't know this was a thing until I was watching Elliot from IMO Reviews review this movie, and he gave it a pretty positive review, and so I was like, oh, I have to check this out. I was a big Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers fan as a kid, as a young kid. That was one of those Disney movies I never missed, and so it was kind of fun going back and kind of nostalgia of that show a little bit. A lot of characters come back from that show, but it's a great. But I really enjoyed this show. This movie, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, that they did on Disney Plus. I believe John Mulaney and Andy Samberg are doing the 2 main character voices. A lot of great voice casts, a lot of great, there's so many cameos of different. It's definitely like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you have human characters interacting with animation characters and acting like they both exist in the same world. And they're not, bothered that the humans aren't, freaked out that there's an animated, animal or whatever that's there with them, So it has that aspect to it that I really liked, and I enjoyed all the in humor. I don't know what you call it, because all these characters, and they take these Disney characters and all these other animated characters and find really funny things to do with them, I thought, and these jokes that you only get if you watch a lot of movies like I do, and a lot about pop culture. So there's a lot of jokes that you would get because of that, and I enjoy those kind of jokes, those quick jokes that if you don't think about it, you'll miss it. And so I love all the characters that they kind of bring in for cameos, and a lot of Disney characters and so forth that come in, and so it's very funny, I thought, movie. The plot is that they're trying to, there's somebody that's kidnapping animated characters and all this. So there's this kidnapping kind of plot that they're trying to, they're kind of becoming detectives, I guess, and trying to figure out who's behind it and help one of their friends before they get kidnapped, or they get kidnapped, and so they're trying to help one of their friends. And so and it's a bit of a nostalgia because it's like they're like they're actors that played the characters, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and so they're kind of just these actors later on in life, and they kind of had a falling out, and so they used to be best friends, and so I like that whole aspect of it. And overall, yeah, and they do a lot of movie parodies. I love one part, they do a Jurassic Park parody out of nowhere. It has nothing to do with anything, but they do it and you're like, oh, that's Jurassic Park. And they did a Terminator 2 parody in there, and I love movie parodies, so I really enjoyed all that. So I would highly recommend Chippendale Rescue Rangers, even if you don't watch the original show like I did. I still think there's a lot of interesting humor in there if you're a pretty movie savvy person. So I definitely give that a 3.5 stars, a solid recommend on here, Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Third movie I'm talking about is Red Notice. This is kind of a big movie that came out on Netflix with Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Gal Gadot. It was kind of this, it's one of Netflix's like big shows that they had this last year, and it has, of course, incredible cast. I mean, it seems like Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson, they're in the most movies out of any actor out there. I mean, they both do, I think, 5 movies a year, it feels like. It feels like almost every other movie I watch, one of those two are in it, if not both. So it makes sense to put both of them in one movie, because you got the two of the biggest movie stars out there, I think, today. And you put it in there, and so it's going to have a combination of humor and action in it. And, so I think it got a pretty bad rep, though. I think the critics didn't like it that much, and most people I've talked to didn't really care for the movie that much. I think it was actually a little bit better than I've been hearing other people say. Red Notice has to deal with kind of a movie heist and art. They're trying to, there's a, what do you call it, Fabergé egg, that's really Cleopatra Fabergé egg thing that they're trying to get, and Ryan Reynolds plays like a thief that steals stuff, expensive artifacts like that. And Dwayne Johnson's like a CIA guy, I think, that's going after him, but he gets framed, and then they have to work together, kind of thing, as the FBI or whatever's going after them, and they're trying to find the real, person behind it all. So it's kind of to me, it's just a fun movie. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, but that's because Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne Johnson are just so good together. I think they had a good chemistry, and definitely was very funny. Of course, they constantly insulting each other and trying to outdo each other, as a lot of these movies are with those two. And so I thought it was fun, the interaction between the two and the chemistry. I thought it was actually pretty fun. The whole plot wasn't anything special, I will agree. And there's this reveal at the end that just takes you by surprise. And it's like, what? Like, not only did I not see the reveal at the end, I was like, oh, I didn't think I needed that reveal. Like, it was a really kind of a groaner. It was like when you find out kind of the plot twist at the end, you're just like, oh my gosh, really? You gotta be kidding me. It kind of doesn't make sense with the rest of the movie. I'm sure that's why people didn't like it, but overall I'd give it 3 out of 5 stars. I'd give it like a light recommend. It's kind of a fun movie, again, just to watch on a Friday night, if you want to watch something and laugh a little bit. So that's what I think about Red Notice. Fourth movie to talk about is a musical called Dear Evan Hansen. It came on streaming on HBO, and that's where I saw it a couple months ago. And I was aware of this movie. It came out, and nobody really talked about it, I feel like, and it kind of just came and went really quick. And I'm sure when they came out, they were thinking it's going to be this big, musical. It's a musical, so you're thinking, you're going to get a big crowd because that likes musicals. But I felt like this show it wasn't even marketed that much, or I don't remember even seeing that much marketing. And it kind of came out and nobody talked about it. it felt like, and it just kind of left. So it's almost this very forgettable musical that was probably supposed to be pretty big, but really was a box office bomb for them. Kind of a misstep. I know it was a very popular Broadway musical. I really didn't know anything about it. I never heard of the music from it. I just knew that, yeah, the music was very popular and did very well. And so I knew when they made the movie, I was like, okay, yeah, they're trying to, but it was a little late because I think the musical was like 10 years ago or something like that when it was really popular. So I think the biggest problem is they're very late on trying to capitalize on a big musical. And so that kind of hurt it. And nobody, I think, outside somebody who's a big like Broadway fan, it probably didn't register to most people. Are probably like, I have no idea what your Evan Hansen is, and so it didn't get. And like I said, I don't think they marketed it very strongly. Like, I don't remember seeing that many trailers on it, or TV ads or whatever. So I think that's it just kind of went out of nowhere. But I love musicals, and when this came out, I was like, I kind of wanted to see it, but it got really bad reviews. That's the biggest thing I remember is the reviews were really, really terrible. And so it made me not want to go see it in the movie theater. And so I waited. Luckily, it went on streaming, and I was pretty excited to see it on streaming because I was like, I'm really interested because I love musicals. And so I watched it, and I would say, yeah, I kind of agree with all the critics. I think I like it a little better than the critics. I feel like a lot of critics like really hated this movie and gave it really bad reviews. Like, I wouldn't say it was a terrible movie. Definitely wasn't a good movie. And it deals with Ben Platt plays the main character, Evan Hansen, who has these extreme mental, I guess, issues of depression, anxiety. I mean, really, really bad. Like, he has a hard time being in society, and he's a high school senior, and he has no friends, and it's kind of a depressing character. And I think that's what hurts the movie most for me, is that the main character, you kind of feel sympathetic for him, but yet he had such bad anxiety and depression that he wasn't a fun character to be around for the whole movie. So as you're watching, I'm just like, I'm not into this character. I feel sorry he has these problems, but it's almost too much for me to enjoy. And so I wish they would have backed down on that part maybe and made him a little more enjoyable, a little more likable character. And the whole plot, don't want to really get into, but deals with suicide and deals with deception. And it seems like the plot, I feel like I've seen the plot before in other movies, and that we dealt with this situation before. So there's nothing super original to it. And I would say, yeah, it just lacked humor. It lacked enjoyable characters to be around. It just needed something more to really make this good. Because I will say the music is absolutely phenomenal. I come away going, man, I love the music in this movie. And I went on Spotify afterwards and listened to the soundtrack, and I love the soundtrack. Songs like the very first song, I believe, in the movie, Waving Through a Window, is a really great song, a really strong opener. Forever is a song on there, really good. And then there's a kind of a love duet called Only Us. It's a really great duet that they have. And so I'd say I recommend listening to the soundtrack more than watching the movie. I don't think the movie is that good, a little depressing. And the ending was very unsatisfying. Like, it didn't feel like, it didn't end on a happy note to me. And so I was like, well, I like movies that end more happy, I guess. And so I was like, what was the point of this movie? Just wasn't enjoyable, didn't really end anywhere. And you knew kind of how it was going to end, because it's, like I said, it was about deception. So, the person that's deceiving everybody is going to be found out by the end, and then he's going to have to somehow make things right. But they didn't do it quite in a good way. So I have a feeling that the Broadway musical is probably better than the movie, that they didn't quite adapt it quite right. That would be my guess from watching the movie, because it's a popular musical, so I'm sure there's something good there. They didn't quite were able to do it on screen, I think, is the problem. And I thought Ben Platt was absolutely great. Of course, like I said, he has a great singing voice. But I think his overall performance is actually pretty good. A lot of people were very critical of him playing the Evan Hansen character, because he played it on Broadway, and like I said, like almost 10 years ago maybe, and he won the Tony for Best Actor in a Musical. I mean, so he gave a great performance in the Broadway musical. But now he's 10 years older and he's still playing a high schooler. And a lot of people are like, didn't like seeing, this guy who's maybe not 10 years, maybe it was more like, 6, 7 years after he played it. So when he played it on Broadway, he was like in his early 20s. And now he's like, when he did the movie, he was like 28 or something like that. So a lot of people said, oh, he looked too old to play high schooler. But I guess to me, that didn't bother me at all. I don't mind older people playing high schoolers because it happens all the time. I loved Grease growing up, and I still love Grease, and it doesn't bother me that they're all like in their late 20s playing high schoolers. I guess that never bothered me, but I know a lot of people love to criticize those kind of things anyway. So, but I would say I don't hate Dear Evan Hansen. Like I said, the music's so good. I almost want to recommend it just for the music. But like I said, just listen to the soundtrack is probably enough. And I would skip the movie overall. So that's Dear Evan Hansen. I'm gonna try to fit in one movie here on this first version of the movie review Gauntlet, and that is a movie called A Quiet Place Part 2, sequel to A Quiet Place. I was a pretty big fan of A Quiet Place. I think it was one of the best movies that came out. I forget what year that was. Maybe 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. I thought it was a great. I would call it like a suspense thriller movie where you're on the edge of your seat because if you make a noise, these aliens will come and kill you. So it was a great premise, for suspense because everybody had to walk around slowly. And if you made a noise, it was like, oh my God, are we going to get killed? Or is an alien there? So it was great. And then when the aliens show up towards the end of the movie and there's a big, kind of chase sequences, of trying to get away from the aliens. Aliens are quite scary and, very dangerous, of course. And very well done, really made movie. John Krasinski, who directed the movie, I think he wrote it and also stars in it. I thought did a really, really good job. Like I was very impressed by it. So Quiet Place 2, it feels like almost the same movie. It felt like it didn't really add anything different to what we got in the first one. So I didn't really get the point of Quiet Place 2. We just get more aliens chasing human beings and killing people, and they don't really get, what's the end game, I guess, is either to kill all the aliens or try to find a safe haven where the aliens can't get to you, I guess, and try to build a society. But we don't get either one in this movie. I don't know if I think they're doing a third movie, maybe. If I remember right, they're working on a third one. But John Krasinski directed this one also, but he's not going to direct the next one or write the screenplay, I think. So they're going to come up with something different for the third one. Maybe they'll do a prequel, I don't know. But Quiet Place 2, I thought was very disappointing, I guess, and overall. The aliens are still kind of, interesting. There's some, chase scenes that are suspenseful, but it kind of ends. They kind of get chased by aliens, and they somehow, are able to kill them. But I don't know how many aliens are alive, because I thought there's only 2 or 3 around, but there evidently is more aliens around, so we don't know exactly how many are there. But they kind of are chased and they kind of kill the aliens. I'm spoiling it, I know, but the main characters, some of the main characters survive at the end, and it just kind of ends. And I'm just like, I remember watching and going, oh, that's the ending? That's all? Like, I don't know. I was just kind of surprised. It felt kind of a sudden ending and not cool. Like the first movie was a cool sudden end to it. But I loved how they ended the first Quiet Place. But Quiet Place Part 2 was just like, oh, that's it? Just more aliens chasing people. I don't know. It didn't go anywhere. It felt like a retread of the first movie. And it seemed very pointless to me of a movie. So I give it like a 2 out of 5 stars. I give it like a strong not recommend and very disappointing. So anyway, so that's the first part of my movie review Gauntlet. I hope you enjoyed that. Some quick movie reviews of movies I've seen this last year. And I got many more to go because I only covered 5 movies. I wasn't sure how many I could get to, but I didn't want to make the video too long. It's already over 20 minutes. So we'll just end it there and just thank you for watching this video. And thank you for liking it. And just I appreciate all the subscribers for supporting the channel. I really appreciate you. And I hope you have a good day.